Hey everyone, it's Raj from 3CB. There's been a lot of chatter in this last couple weeks in Lakerland about return to play timelines. Specifically, firstly regarding LeBron, who was first going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks, and then it was said 3 weeks, and then Sean said he'll likely be out 3+ weeks. And then also with D'Angelo Russell, who sprained his ankle and was first listed as day-to-day, and now it's been over about a week and a half. Generally, when I look at a timeline, to me it's more of a very much as a gray guideline, and oftentimes it's just provided for public consumption, whereas in-house, when you're actually treating that player, it's far more about the day-to-day progression and how that person is trending. So especially like let's say in LeBron's case, where you have a 3-week timeline, it's really hard to project out that far ahead because you don't really know how he's gonna respond to treatment, how he's gonna respond to activity progression. So it's not really a reliable indicator. We saw the same thing with D'Angelo as well, where that initial timeline really wasn't a reliable indicator. However, we can look at other things as much more reliable indicators. The first thing I'm looking at is what is the player's weight-bearing tolerance. For example, in LeBron's case, right? He's currently in a boot, he's currently using a scooter. In some cases, you'll have players on crutches, so they're trying to limit the weight and stress through that injury in the early stages. And then once they're able to fully bear weight, then I'm gonna look at what they're doing in terms of activity progression. So firstly, what are they doing in terms of movement? Is it stationary movement in the weight room, like a squat? Is it relatively stationary movement on a court, like jump shooting, both of which are relatively low load? And then I'm looking at, okay, are they now doing more dynamic movements? For example, like a reverse lunge in the weight room, or on the court, they're doing a little bit more movement. And then you wanna look at if they're doing different directions of movement, right? Instead of just being only straight front and back, are they now doing lateral? Are they now doing diagonals, which puts different levels of stress and load into your body. And then further, you wanna look at the intensity of the activity as well. For example, right, is that player just walking? Are they jogging? Are they running in a pool or an anti-gravity treadmill, both of which help reduce load? Are they now running on a court? Are they doing sprints, etc., etc.? And then from there is moving into sport-specific movements in activities, which typically is going to start with more controlled sport-specific activities. For example, like running, off screens, where it's controlled drives with no contact, and then eventually you move more towards more game-like conditions, which are going to be one-on-one with contact, which requires a lot more spontaneous movement and being able to manage and handle that types of stress, moving to 2-2, to 3 versus 3, and then eventually to 5v5. So those updates, when you see those, are gonna give you a lot more information on a player's return timeline than anything else is. For example, with D'Angelo, we got some information that he was still having some discomfort moving laterally with that ankle, and the team wanted him to be more pain-free with that lateral movement, which does place the highest stress on the lateral ankle ligaments. And so that makes sense why he's being held back. All in all, the overall takeaway here is that yes, timelines can be easy to look at and make it seem like the player will be back by then, but there's a lot more variables and more reliable indicators that can tell us if a player is going to be back earlier or later than that. Keep an eye on those rather than constantly getting sucked in to this discussion about timelines, because it doesn't really tell us anything and it's just going to leave you frustrated more often than not.